The Faithful Hall of Fame. Joseph. This is Joseph.
Hey!
Who was the son of Israel and Rachel. He was his father's favorite, so his brothers hated him and sold him into slavery. You see, Joseph was taken to Egypt, and Potiphar, one of the Pharaoh's officials, bought him for his household. God was with Joseph, and he did well in Potiphar's house. Potiphar saw that God made everything Joseph did a success. So he put Joseph in charge of his whole house.
Yeah!
And God blessed Potiphar's house because of this. Potiphar's wife saw how well Joseph was doing in the house, and she wanted to make him do bad things. Joseph ran away from her because he wanted nothing to do with someone who would try to make him do the wrong thing. This made Potiphar's wife angry, and she wanted to be rid of Joseph. So she lied and made Potiphar believe that Joseph had done the bad things that she wanted him to do. Potiphar burned with anger against Joseph and sent him to prison. While Joseph was in prison, again, he did well, and the warden soon made him responsible for all that was done there. God was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did. When 2 full years had passed, Pharaoh was having unsettling dreams. Pharaoh did not understand his dreams, so he sent for Joseph. Pharaoh asked Joseph to tell him the meaning of his dreams. With God's help, Joseph told Pharaoh that the dreams told of what could come in the future, and he explained all the dreams to the Pharaoh. Pharaoh believed that what Joseph was saying was true. He trusted Joseph as a wise man, and he put him in charge of the land of Egypt, of Pharaoh's palace, and of all his people.
Hi kids, have you ever had a really bad day? Have you had one of those days where, I don't know, maybe your alarm doesn't go off in the morning so you don't have time for breakfast, and the cat's been sick all over the kitchen, and you can't find any clean clothes, so even though you haven't had time for breakfast, you're going to school with yesterday's porridge smeared all over your school top. And then you get to school and the teacher tells you off for being late, and your best friend's mean to you, and you fall over and you hurt yourself, and it's just such a rubbish day. I've had days like that. And you know what? In those days, sometimes I'm tempted to say, I don't care. I am just going to, and whatever it is that I want to do, it isn't always what God wants me to do. Because it can be hard to be faithful to God when things are tricky. And yet our story today is about Joseph and about how even through the most difficult circumstances, Joseph remained faithful to God. So let's recap on the story, shall we? At first, everything looked pretty good for Joseph. He was his father's favourite, and he had a dream from God that one day all his brothers would bow down to him. So at this point, I bet Joseph was thinking, I'm the man. However, things didn't stay going well for Joseph for very long, because his brothers were cross and jealous, and they sold him into slavery, and he ended up as a slave in Egypt. Here are my chains to represent he's in slavery. Now he ends up in the house of one of the officers to the Pharaoh, a man named Potiphar. And even though this worst, most scary thing has happened to Joseph, God is still with him. And Joseph remains faithful to God. and God blesses him in it. And everything that Joseph does, God prospers. So maybe, again, Joseph was a little bit tempted to think, I'm the man. But then things go bad again, because Potiphar's wife sees the favour that is on Joseph and she doesn't like it. So she tries to tempt him to do a bad thing. Now Joseph, as I said, through all these difficult circumstances, so much worse than porridge on your school skirt, he remains faithful to God. And she doesn't like that. So she tells lies about him, and poor old Joseph, this time he ends up in prison. But he remains faithful to God through it all. And God is with him. And even though he has to stay in prison for a long time, at the end of that time, God gives him the interpretation to one of Pharaoh's dreams. And because Joseph interprets that dream, he has the favour of Pharaoh upon him, and he is taken out of prison, and he's seated in a position of honour in the country, and he's made one of the main rulers of that country. So just as God had spoken to him at the beginning, that his brothers would bow down before him, that actually happens at the end. However, by this point, I don't think Joseph is thinking, I'm the man. Because I think by now, perhaps he's learnt his lesson, that it is God who's in charge of whether we succeed or fail. But more importantly than that, what I want us to take away from this is, even in the most difficult of circumstances, Joseph remained faithful to God, and God wants us to do the same. So, what does it mean to be faithful to God? Well, I think it means three things. I think it means that even when things are tricky, we keep on walking with God. I've got my shoes to represent walking. That means we keep on reading our Bible. It means we keep on being friends with God. We keep on worshipping. We keep on trusting him. I think it means too that we do whatever God asks us to do. And I brought my Bible because the Bible is one of the ways that God shows us how he wants us to live our lives. And so being faithful to God in difficult circumstances means we do what God wants us to do. And the third thing is about having godly character. Oh, I'm struggling to pick up my heart. Here we go. Godly character, because our character is about who we really are. And even when things are difficult, God wants us to continue to be the people that he's called us to be. So Joseph was really good at being faithful to God, even when everything was difficult. He continued walking with God. He continued doing what God wanted him to do, and he continued to show godly character. What about you? When everything is difficult, when you're having a bad day, are you faithful to God? Thanks for listening.
Shakes and things break. You are my rock, my